What's going on, movie fans? My name is Michael Weer. I love talking about movies, and I love the Scream franchise. It is my favorite slasher franchise of all time. Not only did you have a great-looking killer with the ghost face mask, but you also got great twist reveals at the end of the movies. Most of the time, it was a character that the audience was trusting along with the characters in the movie, and then they would reveal themselves as the ghost face killer. Those twist reveals, some of them were fantastic. And then, of course, there's the meta commentary aspect of the Scream franchise, not only being a meta commentary on the time that those movies are made, but also the horror movies that are made around those films. For instance, when Scream came out back in 1996, they talked about Michael Myers, they talked about Jason Voorhees, and while those are iconic slasher villains in and of themselves, the franchise could have just tried to keep up with those, but instead, by the time you got to Scream 5, they were talking about movies like The Babadook and other slow burn horror. Basically, as the horror genre changed and adapted to time, well, the Scream franchise would also do that, keeping each film in the Scream franchise unique in its own way. So I've loved this franchise for a very long time, and in February of this year, I thought it would be fun to put together an entire franchise review series of the Scream films, and I did that. I watched and reviewed each of the Scream films throughout the month of February, leading up to the release of Scream 7, and then I watched and reviewed that movie, and all of those reviews, all 7 of them, are on my channel right now, and I would love for you guys to check them out if you haven't had a chance yet. But then when the reviews were done, my plan was to put together this video, and that is a full ranked list of the entire Scream franchise from the worst to the best. Now, unfortunately, this video is about a month late because right after that Scream franchise review series, I planned on making this video at the end of February, and then I got very sick, and then from there, life picked up, work picked up, and now it's the end of March 2026 when I'm recording this, but we are finally there. I am finally ready to put a bow on the Scream franchise and rank this franchise from worst to best, and I'm so very excited to do it. But as always, this is never just about my opinion, it's about your opinion as well, and I would love to know how you would rank the Scream franchise from worst to best, so throw your thoughts in that comment section down below. Just remember, your list is probably not going to match my list, and that's totally okay because we all have different opinions, especially when it comes to movies. Finally, guys, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, I would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, check out all the different content that I have. Whether you like movie reviews, Blu-ray talk, or even ranked list videos, I've got a little bit of everything on my channel, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. All right, let's get into the entire Scream franchise ranked from the worst to the best.
Here we go.
That is one big pile of shit.
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
Coming in at number 7, the worst movie in the Scream franchise, in my own personal opinion, is Scream 3. Now, when I say worst, I don't necessarily mean this is a bad movie. It's still a fun Scream movie. I will say this, the Scream films are great, good, and at least fun. I don't think there's a bad one in there, but because I have to put this in ranked list order, I do have to put my own opinion as to which movie I would revisit last, and in this case, it would be Scream 3. And the reasons for that is because this movie was severely cut down to what it could have been, how it could have rode the momentum from those first 2 Scream films. It could have been bloodier, it could have been gorier, but instead they went a different route because of violence that was happening in real life back when this film came out. So just a quick recap here, the film was directed by Wes Craven, and it was supposed to be written by Kevin Williamson, who wrote the first 2 Scream films, but he turned in a script that would have Matthew Lillard's character of Stu returning and creating a ghost face cult of killers that would come out of Woodsboro High School, and then because of real life tragedies that happened, they decided to shift completely away from Kevin Williamson's script, get rid of Stu Macher coming back, get rid of the idea of having it in a high school. In fact, this movie would move to Hollywood on a set of a film where a serial killer would be killing different actors in a stab movie. And that is such a downgrade from where we were in the franchise and what we could have gotten in this installment. I know there's a lot of nostalgia for this movie, or what I like to call recent nostalgia, because up until a couple of years ago, I think everyone agreed that, hey, yeah, Scream 3 is the weakest in the franchise. And now, especially lately on Twitter and other places on the internet, people are defending Scream 3 hardcore, saying it's such a great great film. There's other bad ones in this, and I don't know who to take serious anymore because, again, I thought we all agreed, but it is what it is. Everybody has their own opinions. We may disagree on this, and that's totally okay, but that's my reason for saying this is the weakest in the franchise, just right off the bat, those two reasons. Then you get into the killer reveal in this film, and while there might be a worse killer reveal that we'll talk about in a little bit, I do feel like all of a sudden Sydney having a long lost brother that she didn't know about just doesn't really work for me, especially the fact that that person is now the puppet master of Billy and Stu from the first movie. That also didn't work for me. It felt very shoehorned. And when you look at the backstory of this film and how they came up with this concept, it was very shoehorned because that was not going to be the concept going in. So for all of those reasons, Scream 3 is my number 7 pick in this franchise. That brings me to my number 6 pick on this list, and at number 6, we have the 6th film in the franchise, Scream 6. I said 6 too many times there. It was not planned. But my reasoning for putting this film at number 6 is that it felt like a giant step down from Scream 5. And we're going to get to Scream 5 here in a little bit. But Scream 6 brought back the same director group, the same writer group, and the same core cast of characters who would sort of be taking that survivor torch from the original cast of characters and moving it forward in the franchise. But for me, it just fell flat in so many places, especially with the reveal of the Ghostface killer. Don't get me wrong, there's some things to really love about Scream 6. I loved the move to New York City. I loved the Halloween atmosphere. I loved the gory kills when they actually were kills. And that leads to a thing that irritates me about this movie, and that is that the core group of characters has so much plot armor that they are indestructible. I mean, at one point, Chad is being held up by 2 different ghost faces as they repeatedly stab him in the chest over and over and over, and yet somehow he survives. And it's just annoying that he lives to the end of that. Same goes for his sister Mindy in this film. She's stabbed multiple times by a Ghostface killer on the subway, seemingly in front of people who aren't paying any attention, and yet at the end of the film, she just kind of runs up holding her stomach like, oh, I can't believe I missed the twist reveal again. It's like, what do you mean you can't believe you missed it? I can't believe you're alive. And again, that goes for all 4 of our core cast characters because all of them are fatally wounded at one point in this movie, but by the end, they're all good, especially Chad. That one still burns me up. Why have him stabbed in such a brutal way by 2 killers at the same time, fall to the floor, and then they're just like, he's fine. He's on a stretcher. He'll be all right. He has oxygen. He's fine. So while there are some things to love about Scream 6, I do think there's enough negative you can pour into that movie that makes it my number 6 pick on this list. At number 5, we have the most recent release in this franchise, and that would be Scream 7. And I'm going to get into some spoilery details here, so you've been warned in case you haven't seen Scream 7 yet. If you want my spoiler-free thoughts, well, that would be my review for this. But in this ranked list, I am going to go into some spoilers here for Scream 7. Again, you've been warned. On the positive side of this movie, I love that Neve Campbell came back to supposedly getting paid what she was worth this time around, and I was very happy for her. Of course, she was in Scream 5, but she wasn't really a main character. She was mostly just passing the torch to the new cast of characters. She was completely out of Scream 6 due to a money conflict. She didn't think she was being paid right, and then Scream 7 happened, and after all of the drama in this franchise, they ended up bringing her back, and again, I'm assuming they paid her what she was worth. So I'm happy she returned to this franchise, and I was happy she was back as the main character of Sidney Prescott once again. Another great positive for this film were the kills. I think this film has some of, if not the best kills in the entire franchise. With the opening kill being great, that guy gets a knife right through the side of his head. You see his eyes bulge out, and then the girl who just a couple minutes earlier said, man, I would hate to get burned alive. She gets stabbed so many times and then lit on fire with Stu Macher's house. It's a really nasty kill. And then we move on to the wire kill, which has this girl who's on wires just performing for a play, and Ghostface is right beneath her just slashing her as she goes back and forth until her guts spill all over the stage. And then finally, the best kill in this movie, and maybe even in the franchise, takes place inside of a bar next to some beer taps. If you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It is a great kill, and I just love the way that they use those kills throughout this film. But ultimately, this movie is number 5 on my list because while it had great kills, and while I was happy to see Sidney Prescott back and be one of the main characters, this movie had so much potential going in with the return of Stu Macher. Matthew Lillard himself returning to the franchise. It was announced, his name was on the poster, you heard his voice in the preview, you saw him physically in the movie with scars on his face, and it was so great that Matthew Lillard was able to return to this film and return to this franchise, but the potential was completely wasted by making the meta commentary of this movie AI and ultimately making Matthew Lillard's character of Stu Macher just another AI, which leads to one of the most disappointing killer reveals in the entire Scream franchise. The fact that you had absolute nobodies within this film become the twist reveal killers. I mean, one of the killers you see at the end, he pulls his mask off and you're like, oh, that's the guy I saw for 2 minutes of runtime. Yeah, it makes sense that they made him the killer. Where is Matthew Lillard? Like, why was that not the ultimate reveal? You could have even gone the AI angle only to find out that he really is alive. And hell, they might do that going forward, but at this point, I've really given up on them really truly putting in any effort into the Stu Macher character. Now, maybe some of my disappointment is just overhyped fan excitement going into Scream 7, being excited to see Matthew Lillard once again. And then when I found out, oh, well, the whole angle of this movie is that it's going to be a meta commentary on AI, well, that was disappointing in and of itself. Because like I said at the beginning of this video, the Scream franchise has always done a great job, not only being a meta commentary on the times, but also a meta commentary on horror films. And while they try to open that up with the Chad and Mindy characters again, they quickly shut that down. So you just get this very brief, what kind of a meta commentary horror movie is this going to be? Oh, one built on nostalgia, and then Chad shuts Mindy down. And once again, speaking of Chad and Mindy, the absolute plot armor characters for no reason whatsoever. Chad at one point looks like he gets his whole throat slit. And I was like, wow, they killed Chad. I can't believe they did it after giving him so much plot armor from part 6, but I'm happy they did it because it was time to move on from his character. No, at the end of the movie, he's back holding a camera, just ready to go, like nothing ever happened. And once again, we get plot armor characters. So there was a lot of frustrating, disappointing things out of Scream 7, but I do think that the kills were great enough to put this at number 5 on my list, put it over part 6, and put it over part 3. That brings us to number 4 on this list, and at number 4, we have Scream 4. This film would be Wes Craven's final entry into the Scream franchise, and unfortunately his final film before he passed away just a couple of years later. But this film served as sort of an end cap for Wes Craven's vision of the Scream films. We got to catch back up with that original trio of survivors, and while Scream 3 had sort of closed off that original trilogy with a whimper, I felt like Scream 4 came back even deadlier. You had new technology introduced to this film because the film was adapting with the times like good Scream films do. So you had people with GoPro cameras, you had a couple of characters that were really invested in making a movie, which made them suspects from the start, and while one of them did turn out to be one of the killers, another one of them wasn't a killer, and so that kind of split those two people up and made you, the viewer, wonder, okay, well, who's the other Ghostface killer going to be? And that other Ghostface killer, of course, turned out to be Sidney's niece, and while we've seen family come after Sidney before with her brother in part 3, I didn't feel like Sidney's niece was completely out of left field, because of course she would have been a lot younger in some of the other Scream films, or maybe even not around at all, since Sidney's niece is in high school at the time of this film, and so it makes sense that by the time we catch back up with these characters, that now she has this niece who's obsessed with the Ghostface killers and has become one herself. She wants all the spotlight on her because the way she looks at Sidney's story isn't tragic. She looks at it like, wow, she got all of this fame. So there was great motivation for the Ghostface killer. There was great motivation for one of the other killers as someone who wanted to make a Ghostface film himself. And like I said, this film served as a very nice end cap to Wes Craven's vision for the Scream franchise. Of course, after he passed away, the film would go to other directors. Kevin Williamson would return in a directing capacity, but it wouldn't be Wes Craven anymore. And so you really got to see Wes Craven's idea of how to close off this Scream franchise. And so you saw these returning characters, you were introduced to new characters, it had some great kills, some great twist reveals, just a lot to love about Scream 4, and that's why it's at number 4. We've made it to the top 3 on this Scream ranked list, and I'm having a fun time. Don't forget to throw your ranked list in that comment section down below. At number 3, we have Scream 2. Scream 2 was a great sequel to the first film. It was a phenomenal follow follow up because they took elements of that first movie and they did what a sequel is supposed to do, and they raised the stakes. They brought things to the next level. So you liked the violence in Scream 1? Well, we're going to bring that blood and that gore up a notch. You liked the mystery of who the killer is? Well, we're going to twist things up. We're going to make you think it's the boyfriend again because we're being formulaic, but it's actually not going to be the boyfriend. It's going to be someone who's a friend of the boyfriend. And then the bigger twist reveal is that we are going to get Billy Loomis's mother. And while part of that twist reveal might not work for me because I still have an issue with Gail Weathers not noticing that it was Billy Loomis's mom, she was like, oh yeah, that's what a makeover will do. I'm like, unless you had absolute plastic surgery, there's no way that Gail wouldn't know that you were Billy Loomis's mom. But that's an issue I have with the film. We're talking about the positives here, and I really do love so much about this movie. I love how much effort they put into this film. The Randy kill, oh, it still hurts me in my heart because I love the character of Randy, but that is one of the best kills in the franchise. It just comes out of nowhere. Randy's talking all this shit to the Ghostface killer, only to have a van come up behind him, grab him into the van, and then you just see that pool of blood. And I remember as a kid watching that on TV for the first time and being absolutely freaked out by that pool of blood that came out from the Randy kill. It's a great kill. I also love that they moved this from high school to college. It gave it a new, fresh setting, something that the Scream franchise is known for, and they do a good job with it. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Scream 3, I did like that it was in a different location, and they do that with each of these films. They're either in Woodsboro, or they're at a college, or like in Scream 7, they've completely moved things to Indiana. So I like that this franchise can do that, and Scream 2 sort of set the pace for that. It said, okay, we had these characters, they were in high school, but now they've graduated, and they've moved on to college, and now we have a college campus killer instead of a high school killer. It's very adjacent from that first movie. It feels familiar, but it also feels fresh. And yes, I guess I do have that gripe with Gail not noticing that it was Billy Loomis's mom, but other than that, I really love this movie. I think it did everything it needed to. It is not as good as Scream 1, but I don't think anything in this franchise is better than Scream 1. Spoiler alert for my number 1 pick. And that, of course, brings us to number 2, which might be my most controversial pick on this list, and that, of course, is Scream 5. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, I can't believe you put Scream 5 over Scream 2, but this is just my list. And I love what they did with Scream 5. I love how they did an almost perfect requel, and that would be a reboot, but a legacy sequel at the same time. Treating the previous movies with all the respect in the world, bringing back legacy characters that you would also treat with all the respect in the world, but introducing us a new cast of characters. And while I would get annoyed with how they treated those characters in part 6, I think in part 5, they all work so very well. Scream 5 also copies the formula of Scream 1 almost entirely, and maybe that's another reason I love it so much, because I love Scream 1 so much. But in the opening moments of this movie, you have a girl home alone. Of course, that's Jenna Ortega's character. She gets a phone call only to be stabbed by a Ghostface killer, but instead of dying, she actually lives, which then draws her family and friends to her. So now the Ghostface killer has a lot of people to go after. Speaking of the Ghostface killers, again, it was a bit formulaic because they were copying what Scream 1 had done, but they did it so damn well. Yes, you had the boyfriend as one of the killers, just like in Scream 1, but the boyfriend, played by Jack Quaid, did such a great job. And then Mikey Madison, Oscar-winning Mikey Madison, did such a great job as the sort of Stumacher, unhinged Ghostface killer. And of course, I loved how both of those killers met their ultimate demise. Oh, they were brutal. So the movie had so much going for it. I liked the plot of the film. I liked how it brought back legacy characters and introduced us a new cast of characters. I loved the kills in this movie. Speaking of the kills, the movie had the balls to actually kill and leave a legacy character dead, and that would be Dewey. As much as it hurt my heart to see Dewey die, it felt like the most significant death in the franchise since Randy in Scream 2. It took someone who was very important to us, the viewers, and just absolutely gutted him. So the kills were great in this movie. I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed the twist reveal. I enjoyed the legacy characters. All of it worked for me, and that's why Scream 5 is my number 2 pick, and probably the movie I go back to the second most when I do a rewatch of these films. But of course, there can only be room for one film at number 1 on this list, and at number 1, we have not only my favorite film in the Scream franchise, but my favorite slasher film of all time, and that would be Scream from 1996. This movie wasn't even just a great slasher film, it was so great that it changed how other horror franchises acted going forward. For instance, the Halloween franchise had been going strong since 1979, yet when Scream came out, they were like, well, we could take Michael Myers and put him in like a high school and chase high school students. That's what people want to see. Look what Scream did. Like, so Michael Myers should do that next with H2O. And while that movie brought back Jamie Lee Curtis, the focus really was on the high school students because of what Scream had brought to the table. But looking at the film itself, you've got this great creepy mask for the Ghostface killer. You assume it's one person throughout the movie. You're wondering if it's the boyfriend. Could it be the boyfriend's best friend? Could it be a completely unknown killer like we had seen in other slasher movies in the past? But what it turned out to be was two of our main characters, two people in Sydney's group of people that she trusted, not only going after her, but killing her mother and killing so many other of her friends. And it's such a great twist reveal. And of course, this movie is brutal, starting with a kill that nobody could have seen coming in 1996. And that was Drew Barrymore, who was on the poster of this movie, being killed in the opening moments, just being absolutely gutted and hung from a tree. And that was shocking in 1996, and it's still just as shocking when I watch the movie now. Scream had great performances throughout, great kills throughout. It was a great slasher while also being a great whodunit thriller film. There were so many elements that were well executed in this film, and of course we have Wes Craven's directing and Kevin Williamson's writing to really thank for this first film. It did so much, not just for the Scream franchise, which would end up spawning 6 more sequels as of this recording. Movies like The Faculty and Halloween H2O were direct results of Scream from 1996. There's so much to love about the Scream franchise, but of course so much of that love can be traced back to the greatness that is Scream from 1996. And that's why Scream is my #1 film in the Scream franchise, and just for the record, it is my favorite slasher of all time. And guys, that's my list. Those are all the Scream films ranked from worst to best in my own personal opinion. Like I said before, don't forget to throw your list in that comment section down below. And finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright guys, we got to the end of my Scream ranked list from worst to best, and this will also serve as the final entry into my Scream franchise review series until they inevitably make part 8, which I still hope brings back the real Stu Macher for the record. But until then guys, if you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got all of my Halloween movie reviews right there, and I've got all of my Scream movie reviews right there.